Welcome again to another rendition of Welcome to Fatherhood Interviews. My name is Sir Royce Briales. I'm with my prestigious co-host, Dr. Raheem Young. How's it going, my brother?
Everything's well, man. How things on your end?
Oh, man, no worries over there. No complaints. Who listens anyway, right? That's what they say.
No, it's who cares anyway. They might listen, but I don't know if they'll care.
I'm also pleased to announce we have a special guest, Paul Flowers. How's it going, my brother?
Hey, I'm doing well. You know, I was just waiting for the studio applause. Like,
I get to you right now, the studio clap.
That's usually only in Toastmasters I get those applause. Other than that, they're like, wait, Flowers in the building. I don't know. Man, brothers, I'm feeling very well this evening, a beautiful evening, and I'm just in a state of gratitude to be sharing the stage with you two. Glad to have connected with you, brothers, again. You're up to something great, and I'm glad to be a part.
Yeah, so Paul, give us a little bit of your background, so your story. So how many kids you got, what are their ages, and also what do you do for a living or for a purpose?
I like the way you phrase that, for a purpose. So I'll do all three. I'll do background, kind of what got me to this point, then the children, and then purpose-driven work, I'll call it at present. Background, born and raised in this lovely little city of Chicago. And as I was sharing with Raheem before we got started, if I never saw another snowflake, I'd be okay, right? We've got construction and winter as our seasons. And aside from that, it has been a good journey throughout the city. So grew up here, went to a St. Felicitas school, Mount Carmel High School, and got on out of here, went to Southern in Carbondale, program at Georgetown after that. Found my way back to a fiance and a family. And from that lovely unit came a baby boy. Now, he was my first biological, but I'd always say I had 3 children because I was a bonus dad to 2. And did that for a little over 8 years-ish. And although we didn't quite work out, we still have an amicable co-parenting relationship. So that is my only current biological child, my 9-year-old son. I shared with Raheem, I recently got married actually in February of this year. And wouldn't you know it, just a few short months later, I get a little piece of plastic. She's messing with me. I take her to a regular visit. She comes out and like, yeah, I think I got COVID. And I look at the stick, I'm like, they don't test COVID on these. So at that time, gentlemen, I found out that I was going to be a father once more. Now, we'd initially, after we got married, said we would, spend the first year with us and maybe think about children 2023 and beyond. And boy, if my timing wasn't perfect, because our due date is February of 2023. So at that point, we looked to welcome Summer Monet to the family, to the garden, as I should say, right? Play on my last name. So we will have then 2 children between us. Again, my first being my firstborn son, her first being our daughter, Summer Monet. And we'll see how far we grow the garden, right, as things allow. Now, to that third point, well, what would allow us to grow this garden as fast and furious as we can? Well, green pastures, right? And by green pastures, I mean good green, what they call them, greenbacks, dollars, right? No, not the children are totally dependent on finances, but I do realize that when you raise a child, you want to raise them with the means to expose them to things and not just to expose them to things through the internet. So in terms of working my purpose, living my purpose, I like to teach, train, and share, right, information with individuals. So as my purpose work, I'll call it, currently Vice President of Employee Benefits Select Division here for a company out of Chicago. It's an insurance company, actually out of New York, but I work in the Oak Brook office. We work with employers with 10 to 50 under their stead. I help the human resources and C-suite to really understand what benefits are, the different breakdowns of the options that are available in the marketplace, and really just take a consultative approach to solving their problems. So my purpose in terms of what I do is to help small business owners solve the problems related to human resource functions employee engagement, by way of making sure that they have a complete benefits package, as well as other technological resources to run their businesses effectively. Kind of a little backstory on how I'd gotten into that. As I recently accepted the position, been in the insurance industry for about 17 years. First 12 plus were with Legal Shield. Didn't realize that legal services were something that were needed in our community. And I got introduced to that while I was down at SIU, as a matter of fact. Fast forward to little life insurance through 2010, 2011, 2012, left it alone. Did some corporate sales and marketing and management, and then found myself into corporate health insurance sales. And that's really where it took off. And I really found that niche. And, you get into something kind of like you get in the groove. You brother, of course, everybody's heard of Michael Jordan, right? But when you get in the zone, right, you see him in the game and he's just in the zone, shot after shot after shot, just draining them. Well, I had no experience in health insurance. And luckily I was a quick study, because when I got introduced to it for a profession, because I had been in the direct sales face-to-face for so many years, because I had mentors, and thankfully some of them looked like me, that encouraged me to open my mind and read books. Because those things were present in my life, even though I had no experience in the health insurance field, my first year in health insurance, which was a 4-month contract, out of 120 people, I placed third in terms of number of sales, right? Third highest policy sales. But what really stuck out was something I actually just recently shared on LinkedIn. I was in a position with this company, and the strangest thing, this happened twice at the same company, but they said, don't shine too brightly, because then people will start to look at you. Right? I don't know if anybody ever had that happen before. They say, don't shine too brightly, don't be the one that's really out there. And in front of them, I could only maintain that composure and be like, okay, I can understand that. Yeah. Man, what the back of my mind, when I say it was like red flags, jumping jacks, and all this stuff, like, what are they saying? Like, are you really telling me to come to a position in sales and not shine brightly? Mind blown, right? Needless to say, the company's goal was 35% conversion. And again, because I had mentors, because I had training, because I had people pour into me, I'm like, that's low. Right? You telling me we've got this environment set up where we offer the thing that people want during the time of the year that's really the only time, more or less, that people can get it, and y'all goal is only 3 to 4 out of 10? Brothers, when I say I ended the year, and again, I keep all my stats, right? So I keep the emails to document. People like to talk it, but I'll put it up and show it. Is that I closed number 1 in conversion at 86.64%. Only 3 other people hit over 35%. One was at 42, one was at 46, another was at like 36 or 37. But I blew it away. Right? So they said, don't shine brightly. I said, okay. Okay. So much so that they had to bring VPs of the company to come and sit next to me and plug into the computer to see what was I doing. And it turns back to, again, your point was my purpose. It was connecting with people, finding out what their problem was, and listening to them and helping them solve the problem. So ultimately, that's the purpose work that I do now, is, plus backstory, but helping business owners at this point to solve these problems.
That's cool. Well, first, before I ask my question, congratulations on the new marriage, and also the new baby on the way.
Thank you.
How are you and your wife preparing yourselves for to bring this new life into the world?
You a fan of Rihanna? You ever hear that song? Work, yeah. work. So that's about it, right? When we wrap up this evening, guess what I'm gonna do? Work to get more out there, to bring more in, to put more out, right? If you catch that drift.
Well, let me ask you this way then. Mentally, how are you preparing yourself?
There we go. Yeah, I knew you were going to shift it that way. So, yes, sir. For myself, coming into parenting, my Instagram handle used to be Father of the Century 13, right? My dad died when I was 3, right? 2 weeks before my 4th birthday. And I didn't grow up with the father in the house. You know, my mother never remarried, so I didn't grow up with that strong masculine presence in the household. And I made a decision at some point, I was probably 10, 11, 12. I said, whenever I become a father, I'm going to be the best father ever. And that was it, right? It, not that I was like, oh, let me just go out and have children as soon as I can, right? That wasn't me. And I held on to that so that when I did finally become a father, all that, again, mentoring, personal development, all that stuff from all those years that was poured into me, it only was natural to pour into other people, to pour into other people's children. And then when my child finally came, to pour into him. So at this point of preparation for now round 2, so to speak, it's that learning more, right? You would think, oh, well, you got a child, you know, you've been a parent for 10 years. Why would you want to learn more? Well, just like, you know, before we got the recording started here, I asked about what it's like being a girl dad versus a boy dad, because it's different, right? And though I've parented up to individuals in their 20s as a bonus dad, you know, you've got 7 more years of biological experience. You've got the girl experience twice, right? Not once. You liked it so nice, you did it twice, right? So I asked questions and I learned from other men specifically about what it's like to be a parent to a girl dad and a parent to multiple children. I ask brothers all the time, and you know, ethnicity aside, people all the time, really, that I find that have been married for anything more than a year. One of my brothers, we were at a birthday party. I met an old colleague that I was at a previous company with, and congratulated him on his wedding, because I was there. It was a Zoom wedding. It happened during the pandemic. And I said, man, I'm gonna have to get some tips from you. He said, well, man, you ain't but a week behind me, right? And he was just celebrating, I think, 2.5 years at that point. And we're coming up on what we just celebrate 8 months. So, but again, if you've done it longer than me, you've taken that many more steps than I have. So instead of me having to, and it's the same thing, same way I teach my son, to look at my steps and missteps, right? People say, yeah, just watch what I did. No, watch what I did that didn't work also. So I asked brothers what worked in marriage, what didn't work in marriage, right? I don't just want to hear the good. I need the whole picture, all right? What works with rearing the child? What's not worked for you with rearing a child? So that's my side of preparation. From my wife, I'll say virtually the same thing. She's participated in study groups surrounding newborns, infants, child rearing, and she's connected with different doulas and nurses to get varying opinions, varying ethnicities, to also get varying access to resources that may not always be in our community. And she's been just really diligent. She just had me print out a book the other day on manifesting the perfect birth, right? Sure. It's, as I learned, and I learned all this from her, man, I don't, you know, I hate to be that guy that brings it up. Like, don't cancel me. Okay. Right. Don't give me the hate treatment. Don't cancel me, guys. But hearing what women go through when it comes to the birthing process, not just internally, because I know that's something that we will never understand. You know, with all due respect, whatever your affiliations are and changes and all that, no person born as male will ever understand what it's like to go through those 8, 9, sometimes 10 months, right? However long, of 40 weeks of creating on the inside, right? In the way that they do. So having learned from her that when a woman is on the table, what's actually in those drugs that they give, what's in the epidural, what Pitocin is and how it interacts with the body, what it's made of, that kind of thing. I'm like, baby, no, we gonna write out this birth plan to make sure that I can reinforce the things that you want for you during that time. We're looking to have I call it non-traditional, right, outside of the hospital, either home birth or a birthing center, one of the two, land in the middle of the birthing center for more natural, drug-free birth. And just through kind of gleaning from some of her research, causes more questions to why there are not certain things that are offered for, I'm not just going to say people in our community per se, Southside resident of Chicago, people of color per se, but it might just be the institution. I don't know. But what we realized was not present in some of these meeting visits, because I go to all the doctor visits, with her. I'm right there. And, hey, it's our first time, and it's my first time too. We in here, right? We wear units, so we show up together. The things that we realized weren't present were questions about care, right? Meaning, hey, how are you being cared for at home? Here's some advice on how you should continue to care for yourself. Here's a type of exercise you want to do, exercises to do, things like that. Instead, we get asked the question 16 weeks in, mind you, I think it's a 16-week visit. We get asked the question, oh, do you still want to keep it? Like, you guys planning on taking this full term? Man, we're coming to a well-known, world-renowned hospital, and for a visit, right? For obviously a progressive visit. And your question, one of your first questions is, well, are you going to keep it? Yeah, something about the way that came out to me says that there's training in that environment that says that when you see this, ask this. So as alarming as that was, until we've actually getting ready to look at another doctor, we got the appointment for next month for a different provider. Sometimes you have to realize who's caring for you and who's not. So through listening and learning from her research, also as a first-time parent, which because there'd been so much research done at this point, she's very comfortable in the idea of having a natural birth. And look, I'm right there to support. Like I said, don't necessarily know what it'll be like to go through it per se, but look, I'm gonna have a pillow that you can squeeze on, if nothing else. So yeah, that's my take, brother. I might have gone way off with the question, but I know you're asking about preparation. So really connecting with other people, asking questions. Same for her, connecting with other people, asking questions, and then asking ourselves, what do we want? What do we want to see? Putting it in writing and holding that to basically the standard of how this birth will go.
Yeah, you was on point, man. That was good stuff.
So Paul, walk me through it, man. She hands you that pregnancy test, and you see the plus on there. I don't know if it was a plus or it was a 2 lines. I don't know what.
2 lines. Yeah, we had a 2-line joint.
What? As soon as you saw it, man, what went through your head? What was your welcome to fatherhood moment?
Whew.
In that moment,
it was probably about 16 different thoughts. I think the top 3 were, oh man, oh, this is for real. All right. Second thought was, well, glad I'm married this go round, right? We actually all the way through with the marriage, so we can do it the right way. And third, at that point, I was doing a contract. I trained for a couple companies. Probably at that point, it was June. I was right at the beginning of that contract. So over the summer, I trained somewhere between 500 and 700 people to get their life and health insurance licenses. And I knew at that point, I was already courting the company that I'm with. So I just said, you know what? I know that this is going to come through, because for me to get news like this lets me know that through some divine way, right, there's going to be a way to take care of everything that we need at that point. And sure enough, everything came through. So those were the main three thoughts, was like, oh, this is real, right? And yeah, this is real. And then it was just automatic, for me, I guess as the guys, and you guys may or may not relate when it comes to having found out after the first go round, it's like there's work to do. Right? So it's automatically not necessarily, and this was to my fault, actually, I should say this. Oh, well, baby, how do you feel about it? Are you excited? I'm like, and it might be the Capricorn thing too, right? Team Capricorn. Shameless plug for Capricorn building. Initial thought, brothers, went to, okay, I got work to do to make sure that we can raise this one. And not to say it, let me not say this because this goes down in history, to raise this one as well as I've done before, and to raise it as a unit in a way that is in direct correlation with like what the world is going to be bringing. Because 10 years ago, nobody saw COVID coming. So from a preparation standpoint, 10 years out, I want to be even more prepared for the next thing that may come, which may require, again, 2 commas in the net worth and not 1, right? 4 figures net worth is cool. 6-figure net worth is better. 7 and 8 says that I won't have to worry about much. Children definitely shouldn't have to worry about much either. So at that point, my goals got a little bigger, and having accepted the position with the company I'm with now, in terms of the expansion that we're going to be doing statewide, it causes me to think further than what is put out for me as a goal, right? To think further than what's put out before me as a goal. This person says, hey, you can expect mid 6 figures, this year. And I think, okay, that's nice. And who's the best at doing this thing that I do? And how do they do it? And what do they bring in? And, I can pretty much figure that from knowing how the compensation structure works. And I said, okay, well, that's what I'll be doing this year. Right? My goal is nothing less than that, because I know as a human being, I'm capable of it. As another human's capable of it because they're doing it. And at this point, it's kind of like the first person that was Roger Bannister, broke the 4-minute mile. Right? They said it could never be done. It could never be done. And now we got high schoolers breaking a 4-minute mile easy. Right? But it took for that one person to do it first. Well, hell, at this point, the person that's hitting in the space that I'm looking is already doing it. So it caused me to think that far in advance of what needs to be done to make sure that we can go to the countries to visit them. We don't just go to and I love museums, right? We don't just go to the museums though to see history. We go to where history happened. We don't just watch the Discovery Channel to see what's out there. We watch the Discovery Channel to see where we've been. And it's a different feeling when you put that into the future for not just yourself, but for your child. And then you take the steps backwards to say, well, what is it going to take to get there? And for us as providers, it takes the work.
So, I know that you said that your dad passed when you were 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the first man that you recognized as somebody you should model yourself after?
Ooh. Man. See, I'm also critical, right? Mm-hmm. I'm also critical. So with that, I learned that as adult male now, I get that different fathers had different ways of being. And what I mean by that is, my best friend's dad was a little unique at times, and acted as such, sometimes even in public. Nah, I don't want to be like that, right? Had a couple of friends whose fathers weren't present in the household. Theirs weren't 6 feet under, they were just 6 miles away. Nah, don't want to be like that. Had close friends, proximity wise, whose fathers would, call them names that I wouldn't dare call my son, with regard to his sexuality. I'll just say that. And I'm 15, 16, hearing him call his son these names, and no, I don't want to be like that. Then there were those fathers that were cool, but a little harsh at times to him. Like, cause I teach my son this. I ask him, I said, Mace, once he got old enough to really comprehend language, and I always spoke to him like I speak to you all, right? None of that baby talk. Nope. You're going to understand language, son, period. Words rule things. Learn to do the words well. So I believe that there's a way to communicate effectively with your child and even correct your child without having to yell at them, call them names, and put your hands on them. Also, I trained my child using the 1-2-3 method. It just so happens that when I was finishing up my bachelor's, I took a class on effective parenting, and I came across this book as a part of my required reading for class called the 1-2-3 method. So I used that for my son from the time he was 2 to about 5. And I told his mother at the time we were together, I said, by the time he's 5, I don't want to have to touch him, right? Don't want to have to touch him. And only one time that I have to tap him and raise my voice after he lied about taking a shower, right? You take a shower? Yeah. As he's sitting on the couch, I lift up his foot. Dirty as the day is long. Okay? Oh, yeah, you took a shower, huh? Come in the bathroom. Show me what type of shower you took. Oh, I hopped in here like this. Nah, because only his hair was wet. I pulled down his pants and said, boy, your behind is still ashy. Tapped it real quick. And he still didn't forgive me for that. He talks about that to this day. That was like 3-4 years ago. But he doesn't lie anymore. He doesn't lie anymore. And what happens is that I realized that patience is such an important part of parenting, because it's easy to yell. It's easy to get upset. It's tougher to say, hey, I didn't teach this child this thing such that they could not do the thing that I'm getting ready to be upset with them for, right? And that's a relationship thing, period, right? But really as a parent to a child. So noting that, and back to the question then, when was the first time I saw a parent, a father that I can kind of look at and emulate? Honestly, it was when I got involved in direct sales, right? Network marketing. It's Legal Shield now. It was Prepaid Legal at the time. A shout out to a guy named Darnell Self. You'll find him on social media, and Mike Humes. These brothers were bringing in respectively somewhere between $500,000 to $1 million a year. Or no, I think at that time, back in the day, this 2005, 2006, they were bringing in between $250,000 to $500,000 a year, right? And not only that, they were married, and I've got slightly different views when it comes to the institutional structures that we adhere to, i.e. marriage and other things. But that aside, they were married brothers that were balling, right? I'm just going to say it the best way. And they had bankrolls, right? You could choke several cows. Not only that they got it for themselves, but more importantly was how they got it, through teaching, consulting, and teaching and training other people to get it for themselves as well. So when I looked at that, I said, man, checking off all the boxes of what I like to do, what I felt was more aligned with my soul and my purpose was to be a provider, and looked up to in my household was to have the means to do what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, through legal, moral, and ethical gains. As the male dominant figure in my household, parent to my children, and do so in a way that raised them respectfully, and then teach other people, right, how to do and get for themselves, how to earn. Nobody makes money, right? The Treasury makes money. We all have to earn it. So then they go out and teach others how to earn and create a living and to do those things for their families too, to be able to expose them to cities and states and countries that some people unfortunately only see on TV. Yeah, I want to do that. Right. I can be like, I want to be like Mike, right? That was Mike. Actually, it was Mike Humes. But between those brothers, they were, and then Darnell said his story really resonated with me. It took him, well, I could hear like it was yesterday. He's like, it took me 8 years to finish a 4-year degree, right? Kind of thing from college. And I had a similar story, and I took the extended route. And when you hear the true number of years, on paper, people would look at me like I'm crazy, but I always have to give them the rest of the story so they don't think that I'm just some belligerent or degenerate, excuse me, and not able to stick to something and finish it. But man, that in and of itself was a journey. So yeah, his story really resonated with me. And at that point, I had gone through grammar school, I'd gone through high school, and there still really weren't those mentors around me. Now, not to say again that there weren't positive male role models in and around my life.
Mm-hmm.
There just weren't the ones that I looked at and said, oh, I want to be like that. Right? Mom had a couple boyfriends, none that I really wanted to be like and emulate. Like, oh, you're a great dad. No, not you. A father-son, they own Truth and Soul Barbershop on 87th Street, right before Jeffrey. Never forget, Hodge was the owner's name. Damon was the son. And even though my barber was Sherman, but Hodge and Damon would always, speak to me when I came in the barbershop. My mother would bring me in there, and because I didn't have those males in the household, right? Even though I had, again, cousins and uncles and a few of those spattered throughout the Chicagoland area, none that I was really just still like, yeah, that's the guy I want to be like, right? But she would drop me off at the barbershop, and I'd be at the barbershop sometimes a little too long, but she dropped me off there to kind of get that male camaraderie. And having that camaraderie, the I always like seeing that father-son dynamic, how they were in there, they basically worked together, just had a real good relationship. So again, picking up great things from males in and around my environment. Still, it really wasn't until I got involved with network marketing and direct sales that I saw the guys that were doing it for them, doing it for their families, doing it for their communities, and then showing other people how to do the same thing, do it for themselves, do it for their family, do it for their communities, right? By means of providing a service that made sense, and then also having an economic reward. That it was at that point where I realized, yeah, I missed something growing up, not having that father figure present, and furthered my belief, my foundation of when I do become a father, I would be the best one.
So can you walk me through what the 1, 2, 3 method is for the people that don't know?
Oh man, you're gonna put me on the spot. Look, and I got an A in that class, but let me tell you, the short version of it is that you're literally counting out loud, 1, 2, 3. And again, I'm a paraphrase, and Dr. Palin, I think, is the name of. I'm gonna find the name of the author by the time but before we get off of that. So I'm gonna tell the author to not be too upset with how I'll just say bastardize the steps. Oh yeah, damn, I had a good memory. Dr. Thomas Phelan, Phelan, 1, 2, 3 magic. All right, 1. Yeah, so you give the command, you give the request, right? You give the instruction, we'll call it. And they're still doing their thing. 1. Are they still doing their thing? 2. Now I'm approaching you. Are they still doing that thing? 3. Corrective action. All right. So psychologically speaking, I think that it's just like a 4-quadrant thing. Negative punishment. Yeah, as opposed to negative reinforcement, because it's 2 different things. So I think this is negative punishment. So some sort of negative punishment is then administered to the child. And look, recording or not, spare the rod, spoil the child. It just works better. Okay. It just works better. Right. My mama said, I beat you out of drugs, gangs, and babies. And sure enough, right? Didn't get arrested, wasn't on drugs, didn't do the gang thing, wasn't a degenerate in the streets, none of that. Nope. Because I understood that there was a rod that I did not like. So again, 1, 2, 3 method. 1, okay. 2, I'm approaching 3, corrective action. And sure enough, it works so fast when you're consistent, right? Much like anything, it works fast when you're consistent. So 1, 2, 3 turned into 1, 2. Oh, let me hold on. What? So that 1, 2. Whoa, wait, you at 2 again? Okay, hold on. And then it just got to 1, right? And I could literally say 1, and then boom, automatic course correction, right? Automatic, and it like the book says, 1, 2, 3 magic. It became magic because then I didn't even have to say 1. It was just instruction carried out, right? But it took going from 3 with the corrective action to the 2 to the 1 to the none. And that, I think Dr. Phelan will be proud of me, right? Shout out. I've never met him. That book. Matter of fact, LinkedIn is amazing. I should probably connect with him and tell him thank you.
She owned it, I'm proud.
Yeah. Make sure you tag him in this.
Right.
No, that's cool. I want to ask you about, I guess, the relationship part of your life. What have you learned? Well, what did you learn from your relationship with your son's mom that you're using in your current relationship with your new wife?
Ooh, man. And she can hear me too, so I don't
know. Heavy hitters coming in.
And wait. Can we bring the volume down? Can I come in close and whisper this one? No, but really being straightforward about what and who you are as a person. And that, as my mother used to say this too, she said, her mother used to say it actually, so this one's a few generations old. She said, if all your gettings get you understanding. Now, admittedly, sometimes it's really good to put those understandings in writing so that if there's ever any misconception on what was said, if there's ever any disagreement, we can always point back to, hey, we said this is an outline for how we're going to do our relationship, much like a contract, so to speak. So to that point, being honest and upfront, again, about who you are, what you want out of a relationship, why you're getting into it, right? Just having all of that clear up front. And then a phrase, I can't think of who said it first, but I'll say it now. To thine own self be true, right? And it's a longer quote, but I just kind of really shorten it down. And two quotes. One that precedes that is know thyself. So before then, before the second relationship, I was just real clear on who and what I was, what I wanted, and who and how I am and what I'd like to be. And so know thyself first, then to thine own self be true. Right? Because it's, I can hear the challenge comments on this next phrase as I say it. But we're not here to be people pleasers, right? Really, to me, right? And again, my humble opinion. We're here to have an understanding of who and what we are, what we're standing for, and then stand on that. Right? Now, I understand that there's a certain degree of flexibility within relating to another human being. I'm not saying be 100% rigid on everything. And at the same time, have certain things about you that you love about you and that you are absolutely certain that that other person loves about you, such that if and as they show themselves within the relationship, there's zero question or comment whether or not it was there before, it was going to be there in the middle, and if it will be there in the end, right? So, and that only comes through knowing thyself, and then to thine own self be true, right? And the third thing would be to communicate that early and often. I guess the fourth step would then to be gain agreement on it, right? And if I were to just put it out there, fish for a fifth, just so we can have a handful of steps, 5 steps to a perfect relationship, right? And let's get it low key. Know thyself, to thine own self be true. Communicate it early and often. I think I just skipped one and going through that again. We'll have to run the tape back. Basically, if you need to have it in writing, have it in writing, I guess is the 5th step. Whatever that 4th one was, it's in there. But yeah, have it, just really get agreement. You know what I mean? And if it takes writing, write it down, because people forget, right? People forget. And you don't want to be in a situation where you know, hey, look, I like to go out every Tuesday, right, and go play chess over at the lounge and have a stogie with my buddies and some bourbon. That's just my Tuesday thing. That's what I do, right? I've got a child, especially if you have children involved, previous children, you're bringing children into a relationship, or they've got children, whatever it is. Establishing those boundaries, so to speak, of what is acceptable for you, not acceptable for you, and getting the agreement on it, right? And if it's a no deal, then be a no deal and be okay with the no deal, right? And that was one of my things that I wish I'd done differently first go around. Hey, know thyself. All right, okay, got that one. To thine own self be true. Yeah, we knocked that one out too. Communicate it, right, and express it and get agreement on it, right? So I'm communicating it, yeah, but was the agreement there? Not in total, right? So to the brothers that may listen to this going forward, sisters too, whomever, because this is just universal, get the agreement. And if it is not an agreement, be okay with the no. They can be as pretty as they want to be, right? Beautiful. But believe me, with no agreement, they get real ugly, okay? Right? They get real ugly. The dime, yeah, but she a 1 when them horns come out and the temper, and it's like, I'm good, right? In order to prevent that, though, when there's an agreement in place, right, that 4th step, 5 if you need to write it down, there's not, you know, when it comes to integrity, right, doing what you say, saying what you do, that kind of thing, then if this is what our agreement is, and this is what our agreement is, right, that doesn't change 4, 5, 7, 10, 12 years from now, unless we change it in agreement. And that's, I'll pause on that one because I can go down another path of language. Yeah.
No, that's good stuff. I was thinking, like, what if, I know what you said that, you know, it's about, a lot of it is based in integrity and, you know, standing on what you say. So, like, when you encounter them situations where you, you get to the point where it's the agreement, and then it's a no, and then you're like, well, maybe it's okay. Let's just, you know, where you kind of go off of what you were standing on.
Yep.
So
I'll go ahead.
Now I was just gonna say, like, how should people handle that situation? What type of conversation should you have with yourself to be able to stand on that no and be cool with that?
See, this is where I think we were speaking about this again before we started the tape. We aren't classically trained in emotional management such that we can be okay with walking away from something that we think we want so much. Woo! Try that one on.
That's heavy right there.
Try that one on. So what that looks like is, man, she's beautiful. I've been with her for 2, 3, 4 months. We really talking, we really vibing. And, you know, she just loves gentlemen with no facial hair. And to me, you know, I grew up in a culture where men don't shave their faces, right? Men keep their beards, they grow them beards. But 3 months in, she finally tells me, oh, you know, it's all scratchy and you should really just shave it. But see, beards were so important in my family. My father was a beard comber. My father's father was a beard engineer. You know what I mean? And as I grow up, I'm a barber and I got a beard oil coming out, but she wants me to shave my beard. You know what? I'm gonna have to pass on that. And I'm using a real superficial example for the comedy of it. But take that same thought process and then put it towards anything that you stand very strongly on. So yeah, I'm gonna have to pass on it. Now you've given up who you are, right? So if you're willing to give up who you are here in the beginning of this relationship, how else are you going to give up on who you are? Should be the question. And really, a self-respecting woman who wants a man that is a man should not work to change him. Stop that, ladies. Just stop it. Improvements, yes. Additions, yes. Total change to things that are foundations to another person's being, unless it's destructive, let it be. Okay. And I get it, it's all relative, but again, another conversation. But if we're classically trained to say, you know what, this principle I hold near and dear, let me keep this as my core value and then stand on that. If we were trained to be able to accept the rejection, the nasty looks, the poor comments, the name calling, right? So back to the beard example. Oh, you gonna let me go because of a beard? You can't, that rusty old beard, right? Now it's rusty, right? Right now it's rusty. She was fine when I'm taking her out to dinner and I'm eating and she'd get the food off the beard. But now 3 months in, she really wanted me to shave it to make it serious. And all of a sudden it's a rusty beard, right? It wasn't rusty when I was taking you to dinner. It wasn't rusty when we was planning a vacation. It wasn't rusty when we was thinking about, what a family could look like, but now I'm rusty. All right, come on. How soon things change when you realize that I'm not going to bring that one up. Sorry, a Bible verse came to mind, a couple of them, and I'm not, again, per se, the most religious in that sense, but there are some very good things written that are worth repeating. I just won't repeat it on this one. You guys are going to have to invite me back for another interview. So
yeah, definitely, we got to have part 2.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I think that when we step away from those things that we hold as foundations to who we are, we allow for anyone and anything to chip away at the very fabric of our being. So if you started once in a relationship, it's going to happen in other places. Just wait, right? Just wait. But if it doesn't happen in that relationship, then good for you. If we can learn to let it go, right? Good for us. And I'll say why that's easier, logically speaking, right? Get it? We're logical. It's a numbers game. And I don't mean to say that, again, relationships are games. People just take stuff out of context and they run with it, right? So you'll hear me say something, I got to kind of clean it up a little bit because somebody will take that snippet and be like, man, Flowers said. But what I'm saying is that if you look at the population of the planet, right, there's 8 billion people. So let's do some math. And I'm a really tear this. No, you know what? I got the calculator. I don't have to tear it up. Right. So there's 8 billion people on the planet. 8000. Hold on, let me turn my calculator. That's a lot of zeros. Okay, calculator. I just want you guys to get this too, and you may not ever have to look at human beings like this, and sometimes it might be helpful for the listeners. There's 8 billion on the people on the planet. 8 billion people on the planet. So I'm gonna divide that by 2. All right, so let's say roughly half of those are people you might be interested in. Again, just in the traditional heteronormative sense, no offense. All right. All right. So that's 4 million eligible out there. Well, divide that by 2. 4 billion. There's 2 billion that are, we'll say, taken, and divide that by 2. So there's 2 left. Divide that by 2. There's 1 billion that are just not what you want. right? Half of that, right? So now we had a 500,000. There's 500,000 that don't want you. That's 500,000. Half of that is 250 million. That's 250 million that just are interested in other things, that just totally asexual, don't even want the other sex. Well, okay, there's got to be more out there. Well, half of those are just not they're too young, right? Half of those are too old. Half of those are too small. Half of those are too tall, right? Half of those are the wrong color. Half of those speak the wrong language. Half of those just, I can half it down probably about 4, 5, 6 more times. But where I'm at right now, gentlemen, is roughly 400,808, over 400,000. Let me just say that. So then, because I bring this up because I did this math just off the top of my head with a person some years ago. They were really upset about a bad breakup, and like to the point of, man, I'm about to be out of here. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, dude, it's not that serious, and let me tell you why. So I said, did the whole half theory, half, 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 half. And I think we ended up with somewhere to the tune of about 10,000 women that may be in and around the world that are exactly who he wants, exactly who he's looking for, and that he's exactly who they want and exactly who they're looking for. So then I asked him, I said, hey, he was in his 20s. I said, how many people have you met in your life? And how many women have you met and dated in your entire life? Probably just a few hundred. I said, so you virtually tapped into, and we'll just assume everybody's eligible for this one. I said, so you might have tapped into what, 3% of all the eligible women that are there and available to you, and you ready to off yourself for one? And there's 97% undiscovered, right? Conversations not had. Man. And that, like, I saw the look on his face. It was like light bulb.
Pew.
So my advice there is, again, back to the question, how do you deal with something like that? Because we aren't trained for it, again, get trained if need be, learn to pick up some books, be around some people that have gone through it. Use the half factor, right? Take planet's population, divide it in half about 10 times, and realize that if you've not traveled 7 continents, right? A lot of people haven't traveled 2, 3, right? Let alone 7 continents. If you haven't been in countries and eaten and experienced language and foods of other cultures, and don't dare get caught up on a single relationship when there is so much life to be lived, right? Especially if the relationship was detrimental. I took a screenshot of something the other day, and it was probably because I was going to be on here, and I was divinely guided to take a screenshot. 2 of them I actually took. One says, this was yesterday, 4 o'clock. A fresh start isn't a new place, it's a new mindset. And that's one. And the other was, where is it at? It was, hold on. Oh, here we go. It's literally the next one. If someone is not for you, God will never let you be at peace with them. Don't force it. Man. So with that, brethren, I encourage anyone else out there that's having that issue. As they say, let go and let God, right? You are God. So let go and go do something, right? Find that other relationship. Find what's true for you. That'd be my advice on that one, fellas.
That was a hell of a bomb.
Yeah. So the next question I got for you, Paul, is a question that I already asked. The question was, what does fatherhood mean to you? And you gave a real good answer. You said, fatherhood to me means a multitude of things. A few bullet points are patience, kindness, unconditional love, guidance, providing, and a host of others. So Could you elaborate that a little bit more?
And I remember when I wrote that to you, and I think just in conversation, we touched on just about each one of those. Patience,
Yeah.
right? If you think that raising a child is easy, man, right? Go learn rocket science and in a year, right? While you still have to work and still have to take care of the mother of the child, and you go pick up rocket science. You think that raising a child is easy? Nah, not when you want to be an active father. So with that, you have to have patience with yourself first, patience with that child, patience with that mother, spouse, right? Because things will come up and they'll be unexpected. And without patience, we explode prematurely, right? Without that patience, without that calm center, we take drastic actions unnecessarily. So patience is key. Kindness, man, people out here just, and again, spare the rod, spoil the child, but man, you ain't got to throw the child against the wall. You know what I'm saying? Some people out here just abusing, right? Both physically and mentally. So that kindness, and I get it, not personally, because this was definitely not my child. Brother, I didn't even let people say terrible twos around my child. I think maybe 2 people said it in life to me. And the moment they said it, I'm like, no, it's terrific too. Huh? Yeah, terrific too. Are you gonna see? No, I'm not gonna see. Only thing I'm gonna see is terrific too. So so my parenting experience is different based on my energy and my beliefs, which kind of transferred into how the things that would normally potentially make a person upset, how those things occurred to me were different than how they may occur to someone who was less patient or less kind, right? So it's who you are that causes how things occur to you, right? So, oh man, come on.
Talk to him.
Unconditional love is, and then this again is a universal one. This isn't just parent to child. This is spouses. This is all relationships.
Yeah.
And I had some debates about this with namely women, right? But I look at unconditional love as like there is no condition under which I will not love you, right? As a extension of me, especially my child, right? Now, what about a stranger? If a stranger comes and kills your baby, because everybody always want to give you the worst example they can, right? And even in that, again, not a religious person, and to not love another being made of the only thing that exists in this world, which is energy, which is also the very thing that I'm made of, is for me to not love myself. Now, bro, I'm not gonna go and play Parcheesi with you if you hacked up my family. Not at all. I probably want to do that to you, right? Also, in my most primal sense. And still, there's a notion of unconditional love. So now bring that back to the child and the family. There is no condition under which I will not love my son. Right? There just isn't. When my daughter is here as a parent, there is no condition under which I will not love my daughter. That is what I mean by unconditional love. So as long as they're living, breathing, they will be loved by me. And that's just it. And that's the simplest way that I can put it, is unconditional love. What was that fourth one? What was the fourth point? You see, my memory goes at certain times of the day. Hold on. Let me think. I was trying to think where I wrote it down. See if I could find it real quick. So it looks like Brother Royce had to step off for a sec. Let me see. Did I write it? You know what? It was in the Calendly, I think, that I filled out. But needless to say, even with those 3, I know there's a 4th. It'll come when he comes back, or it'll probably just randomly pop up. Guidance. There we go. Told you.
Okay.
I don't want to give the exacts because I don't want to give shout outs to negativity, but I've heard it said that a parent that does not show their child the way of success for that child is not doing their job as a parent, right? And to expound on that a little bit, And it's one thing to have your dreams for your child, excuse me, and that child is a totally separate human being that is having a totally different life experience.
Yeah.
So my thoughts are that the job of a parent is to observe what's going on for that child, what it is that that child likes, dislikes, wants, doesn't want. Inquire about what this child is interested in, not interested in, where they want to go and be as a human being as they progress through this thing called life. And then guide them along that way, right? To guide them along that journey. Now, the journeys may not be exactly the same. Right? I want to work in my profession and then ultimately start my own school system, right? Create my own school. Whereas my son wants to go into veterinarian. He wants to be a vet, right? Doctor for dogs, right? Doggy doctor. And even though that's not my path, that doesn't mean that I can't guide him in the ways that are going to be most effective and efficient for his life, given that I've gone a path, although different, but with many of the same foundational steps, right? You want to be a veterinarian, well, you want to be a great one, you want to be an average one. Okay, I want to be a great one, I want to be the best there is. Okay, well, there's only one number one, as far as I'm concerned. There's only one NBA championship winner. There's only one PGA Golf Tour winner, or there's only one spot at the top. So I looked up for him. It was like 2-3 years ago, 6 or 7, the top veterinarian school in the world, right? And it just so happens to be that it's in London. So then I look at that school, and then I'm inquiring as to what they call feeder schools. All right, what are the requirements to get in, et cetera, and what are the feeder schools for that school? Meaning, what schools typically do people come from that end up at that one? Especially being over here in the US. And then what are the schools that feed those schools, right? Meaning the high schools that feed that particular university, and or the the makeup of what it takes to be the person, if not exactly from the place, but what it takes to be the person that then is able to go and succeed in that environment that leads to that environment that leads to that environment, right? To his goal. So guidance says that you find out where they want to go and note the work that it's going to take to get them there, and then articulate to them what that work will be, help them along the way, and also instill them in them that you cannot do it for them. You cannot do it for them. I tell my son this all the time. Look, there's going to be a time where daddy's not talking to your teachers to make sure that you continue to get straight A's, right? That time may soon pass. So that being the case, as my wonderful wife walks in, that being the case, you have to speak up for yourself. You have to ask these questions for yourself. You have to do these things for you, right? We have to raise a man that is able to speak his own mind and chart his own course. So that guidance piece is really important because, again, like I mentioned earlier, it's not just the steps to take, but also from personal experience, the missteps, right? Whether it be personal, like relationships, or practical, like don't cross the street without looking kind of thing. And the steps and the missteps, right, are the important things to teach and train and kind of guide them along that path of, again, what's important for them, not just my thoughts of what it should be, right? So yeah, those would be the 4. Yeah, and again, Sir Royce, there is a host of others, but for the sake of not getting the stare of death,
we'll tap into the much more part 2, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good stuff, though.
Absolutely. So,
I know we're getting close to time, so I have one last question for you, Paul.
Sure.
So, if you can give advice to like any new dad or any dad to be, like, what would that advice be?
That's my knee-jerk reaction, and I say it in a joking manner, but also in a semi-serious, because anybody can create a body, right? Anybody can create a body. Any man, boy, 9, 10. When do they little junk drop? And they're able to produce semen.
11, 12.
Relatively young.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyone can create life, but what does it take to actually help that life to thrive and outperform you? Right. I told him for the longest time, I said, look, if you're only as good as me, I failed. I failed. So advice that I would give to a younger father or getting ready to be dad at this point, if you have a choice, then put yourself in the absolute best position that you can see yourself in, and then procreate, right? But then this now has a phenomenal example to look up to. You can talk about your accomplishments, and they can see what these decisions, steps, missteps, guidance lead to at the end of the tunnel, because you're there at that point. Now, okay, if you don't put yourself in the best position, then you might just bring it about and they have to watch you do it. Then that's another set of conversations. So in order to have whatever those conversations are, you have to be a know thyself, thine own self be true, an excellent communicator that can communicate that early and often, get agreement, and if you need to write it down, right? Get some signatures on that contract. So to that young father, I'd say to do really those things, right? Know who you are. Know what
it's a 6 one. It's a 6 one. Be okay with the no.
Oh, there, yeah. Come on.
Talk to him.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. And be okay with that no, right? So if you got to take the no, and then right, guess 7 is if to be okay with that no, do the half strategy. Half the total population about 7 times. Matter of fact, do it 8 times, right? And realize that potential is still there for you to explore. And if you're not if you're not in position to explore whatever that number is, right? If you're not in position to explore that opportunity that awaits for you out there in the world to discover what may be your soulmate or your true one, if you're not in a position to stop what you're doing and go and find that plane ticket or go and book that Airbnb for a month and go, then you're probably not ready to have a child. If you can't get from 1 through the 6th step, be okay with the no, right? And then 7, we'll call it to go and find. If you can't be okay, 1 through 7, right? 7's a good number. I think we like that. Well, thanks for that. We created that together.
7 steps to heaven.
There it is. There. Oh, come on. Right. Subtitle, hashtag. Right? If you can't be okay, if you don't have those 7 steps down, especially that last one, right? Really, you're not in a position to go about doing and finding what may be right for you, then it just may not be the time. Now, that's the pre-child. Now, and again, I'm gonna wrap it up quickly, but so different conversation when a person is already expecting, right? So then to my expecting fathers, what I shared in the initial, what I'd written down, those 4 things, right? So it chunks it down a little bit. Be patient, okay? Amazingly patient. Be kind to your child, to your child's mother, right? Because you will never, ever, right? Somebody gets that reference. You will never go through what they go through to bring that child into the world, right? You just won't. Unconditional love for yourself, your partner, your child, and guide them, right? Now, guidance is a heavy one because it requires a heightened degree of understanding of yourself, right? We keep going back to the same stuff, but it keeps a heightened ability to do those things and to effectively communicate them to another human being in a language that they can understand, that's a language that's relevant for their age, right? In terms that are based on their experience to the world. So you can relate it to their world at 5, at 8, at 13, at 17, right? Which again, heightened degree of communication. So, and that's our expectant fathers. To the fathers that are just starting out, newborns, and let's see, I got, so technically, biologically, it'll be 10 years of experience next month. But if we were to include the bonus children, and to their respective ages at this point, it's closer to about 22, right? 20 and 22 are the ages that I've parented in and within. We'll say 20. Just keep going, right? Look at those other things for the expecting father. Look at those things in the pre-relationship. And at this point, right, you have to keep going. You have to stay the course, right? So don't just up and leave when you don't like the child's mother and you just gonna bounce and never see your child again. No, that child needs you, right? Do whatever you need to do to be in your child's life such that your values, your beings, your ways, right? Things that are, I'll call it beneficial ones, right? Yeah, I get that it's relative, but clearly we know that with all due respect, sagging pants and a blunt behind the ear isn't the way that most people want to see their children. So, good things that you have that are viable for the world around us and other human beings, keep going until you can pass as much as you can on, until you can't pass anymore, until you pass, right? Keep going and passing on until you pass on. Trademark.
Another hellified bomb before we close out.
No, that's a good one. Man, but, yeah, I definitely appreciate this, man. We've been having we used to call them Hall of Fame episodes, but we switched it to Hall of Fathers. So I will put this one in the Hall of Fathers. Dr. Raheem, do you concur?
Yeah, I second that.
Excellent.
Yeah, I second
Excellent. Well, again, it is an honor to be here with you, brothers. Again, what you're doing is phenomenal. And I'm going to pass the word. I'll be looking for this to pop up on the Spotify's and things like that so I can pass it to other brothers. And then more importantly, get other brothers that I know that are in the position to give greatly to the audience more than I can. I want to invite them and connect them with the show as well so that they can bring a message to the listeners, again, that may be above and beyond what I was able to share this evening.
So if I had to hang up a jersey number in the rafters, what will your number be?
I don't know if it's going to show up the way that I wanted to, but right there. What is that?
13?
That's it, 13.
Yeah.
I want to do it the left to right way because I don't know if it's mirrored or not, but yeah, number 13, man. People call it unlucky, but if you look at it again from I'll even call it a biblical perspective, it was 1 plus 12. It was 1 plus 12. So I'll let that one resonate. We'll sprinkle that little spice on it.
Sprinkle.
Right, sprinkle. I'm gonna call me sprinkle like the salt. What's the name of the salt?
Salt bang.
There it is. Yeah, the salt bang on them. And put that in the mindset. But yeah, 13 to be it, man. Lucky number.
That's it. That's it. So 13 in the Raptors.
That's it.
Nah, but yeah, thanks again, Paul, for doing this with us, man. Really appreciate it, man. This has been a really valuable session, a podcast that we had with you, man. So definitely appreciate you.
Man, my pleasure. My pleasure. Look forward to part 2.
Cool.
All right, Dr. Young, did you have any other questions for Paul?
No other questions. Just thank you. Appreciate you, and peace and blessings to you all bringing the baby in and to everything moving forward, man.
Excellent. Well, thank you, brothers, and until that next time.
Until that next time. So for myself, Sir Royce Briales, for Dr. Raheem Young, and for our special guest, Paul Flowers. And don't hang up. We'll have a little post game, Paul. Thanks for listening to Welcome to Fatherhood Interviews, and stay tuned for further announcements.